Seeing this, Merida was so terrified that she didn't dare breathe, afraid even the slightest sound would give her away. But the next second, her phone rang loudly, immediately alerting the thugs. Merida hurriedly hung up, her heart soaring into her throat, but it was already too late. As the thugs closed in step by step, Merida fired a shot through the line of bottles. She followed up with 2 more shots. When it was over, Merida was completely stunned. Memories of that night under the bridge flooded her mind. Her fiancé had been beaten to death by the thugs just to protect the engagement ring. Looking at the thug lying in a pool of blood, Merida felt both fear and hatred. Although this was her first time taking a life, she knew she had to retrieve the surveillance tape before leaving. She walked out of the supermarket expressionless, as if nothing had happened. However, just as she calmly prepared to take the subway home, she ran into another unlucky moment in the train car. A steel knife parted a woman's hair, and the thug, unaware that death was imminent, turned and slashed at Merida's neck. The next second, Merida then pulled her hat down and stepped off the train car. This time, her face was icy, expressionless. The 9mm gun in her hand would become her instrument of vengeance. Meanwhile, the police had already sealed off the supermarket. Detective Nick, examining the scene, found no surveillance footage, but he did discover 3 9mm shell casings. One precise shot had clearly hit its target. It was obvious the shooter was a novice. A few days later, Merida returned to the bridge where the nightmare had begun. As she recalled her fiancé, who had loved her deeply, her eyes filled with pain and anger. What had been a romantic evening turned tragic when a group of drunken thugs attacked. Her fiancé had fought to protect her, but in the end, he was beaten to death before her eyes. Thinking of this, the fire of revenge ignited within Merida. She realized there was no savior in the world. If she wanted revenge, she had to do it herself. Once she fired that first shot, there was no turning back. She grabbed her dog and charged straight into the thug's lair. The next moment, Merida was ambushed and knocked down. One thug clamped his hands around her neck. Just then, Detective Nick burst in, and the thug finally fell to his knees. Merida seized the opportunity, aiming her gun at the thug's head. Nick shouted for her to stop. Merida knew that if she fired, nothing could be undone. Nick tried to persuade her to lower the gun. Seeing the helpless, pain-stricken look in her eyes, he understood how unfair this was to a woman. He handed his own gun to Merida. The thug froze in disbelief, while Nick stepped back a few paces. With the sound of gunfire ringing in her ears, Merida remembered her fiancé's final moments. In the end, Nick didn't arrest her. Instead, he helped her craft a false report claiming that the thugs had turned on each other. Merida's path of vengeance finally reached its end as she slowly walked through the bridge where her nightmare had begun.